but when hundreds of people show up at a meeting to tell you what they feel, you get a much different impression. And the one thing that I personally, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree, is how this state has accepted its diversity of its population. And the one article that one item that he had in his article that reminded me, we were up in Marysville for a meeting, a public meeting, and I'll just quote from him because he captured it pretty well. He says that one of the earliest meetings in Marysville, speakers who were mostly white noticed something odd. No Latinos, Sikhs, or Hmong speakers. So they returned to the microphone and spoke for them. One noted that the Hmong we have strong family, which is really a plus for us. One other woman got up and says, and they really have a good farmer's market. and then the other gentleman said, he said, another set of the Sikhs, a super group of people, definitely need to be part of the whole issue that you guys are working on. And so if you're in Marysville and you're hearing about Hmong and Sikhs and Latinos, you know this state has really learned to live with its diversity. And that was a meaningful learning.
Thank you.
In the past, this process has been very, very partisan. The legislature itself through the lines. I was wondering if any of you received any contacts outside meetings or outside the public process from legislators or political parties or interests representing them.
We have been strictly forbidden as a commission from any consideration of party affiliation, including residences of incumbents or of candidates for elected office. We have had a very tight policy from each of us as commissioners that we have turned over any communications that we have received as individuals that are related to redistricting matters. And I am aware of no incident at any time where that protocol was broached.
Can I throw that open to any of the other commissioners who might have received personal?
I'm not. Hi, I'm Stan Forbes. I have not received any, but I also want to, I think, commend the legislatures because, to my knowledge, they really did not make any effort to have us, to contact us and to try and persuade us in their direction. In fact, I mean, I know of my local legislators, and I would see them once in a while when we would come to the Capitol to have a meeting, and they would sort of laugh and say, they're not even sure they could say hello to me. And so I think that the elected officials who were affected by this have also been quite good, and I think it's worth noting that.
Please.
This commission owes its creation to voters being mad about how things happened in 2001 and how government has worked since then. I mean, if these maps are adopted and finalized, what's your hope, what's your expectation of how things are going to change, or do you think it's going to change at all? I mean, you're going to have the same districts, same political, or there are going to be districts, there are going to be political parties running for them. What makes you so confident that the democratic process, small d, is changing as a result of this?
Well, I have to say it's made quite an impression to sit in city after city and watch hundreds of individuals who previously knew little to nothing about redistricting come, bring their families, bring their grandmas, bring their coworkers to testify about what they thought was the unifying points of their community. And we fully expect for all those individuals tens of thousands of individuals who have submitted their comments to us either in person or online, that they have become more engaged in their political process and that they are additionally serving as ambassadors back in their community. Clearly our role was to draw fair districts. And I think moving forward, as the analysis continues to come out regarding the new districts as they take effect, there are some districts where there are no incumbents. We have created a new landscape with opportunities for new leadership from across California to emerge. And I think that it will really be over the long term that we as commissioners are able to look back and identify the impact that these maps have made on the state of California.
Some Republicans have grumbled about Mr. Commissioner Aguirre's role in developing lines down in Southern California and pointing out a Doss Williams contribution. I think I read that it was $100 or something. I was wondering, since this is the opportunity to respond to anything, if you would care to respond to that allegation.
I will respond on behalf of the Commission. All of our commissioners have conducted themselves with the utmost of integrity and impartiality. All 14 commissioners contributed to drawing each district's lines. There has been much discussion over the regional pairs that we created for various regions, and let me explain what those pairs were designed to do. When we received tens of thousands of public comments, we wanted to make sure that in each region we had leads who had read every last comment from that region and who were able to provide us as a full commission with the context of what the local and regional issues were as we worked together as a 14-body commission to draw those lines. There was never a point in time where any map was forwarded for consideration without the support of 9 commissioners. Thus, that is our answer. Our commissioners' record speaks for themselves, as do our final maps. Additional questions, particularly from reporters who have not asked a question? There are a few of you.
We're used to public comment.
Yeah, I know. Please do, please do.
Because I think Wilcox is going to pull me out of the chair in a minute.
Okay.
You got Myers in. I'm sorry. I do want to understand the testimony from the community and how you approach that. I mean, I'm very familiar with the community of interest discussion, what the definition is, how you applied it. There were observers, and I understand their comments, who felt as though when someone came and asked you to put the line in place X, if enough people came, the line would move there. Someone would come and tell you to move it back somewhere else, you would move it over there. There were even times during the hearings where I heard at least one commissioner say, well, we have no testimony from place X. And I just wonder how you approach this process of being responsive to the communities that come, but not overlooking someone who didn't happen to show up that day and therefore their city got cut, moved, whatever.
Yeah. Excellent question, and one of the key components of our roles as commissioners. I'd like to invite Commissioner Blanco to come join me and provide some thoughts on that question.
Your question is right on point. I think that the novelty, in a way, of this process for California, and perhaps if this spreads for the rest of the country, is the notion of the core function we had after population adjustment and compliance with the Voting Rights Act. Our core function was to try and draw districts that gave the residents in that district, whether it was a congressional or assembly or Senate district or Board of Equalization, the words were fair and effective representation. So that really is the basis for a community of interest. Are you creating a district that has within it the interests that are a representative can give voice to? What we heard over and over again was, we are in this district and we're kind of an afterthought. And so when we have, say, agricultural issues or we have water issues, because we're in a district that is so dispersed and basically is a politically gerrymandered district, our representative doesn't understand our issues and can't represent us and give us a fair voice. So that was really our point of departure. So even before we had public testimony, we were very aware of the fact that California has agricultural communities, that it has urban centers, that it has recreational areas, that it has coastlines, that it has foothills, things that are objective, things that make a difference for the residents that live in those types of regions. So the very first thing we did was make ourselves aware of that. And a lot of our original structure, we divided the state into regions to be able to look at that in a systematic way. The public testimony that we received really was people clarifying for us what they saw in that number 4 criteria. What was it about their geography, their transportation, their economy, their linguistic issues, their unemployment issues, their environmental concerns that meant that they wanted a representative that could address those issues. So we never depended solely on, if we didn't hear from somebody, that didn't mean that we didn't care about what happened in that area, because we knew something about the state of California objectively. So as we heard testimony, really in some ways what people said, oh, they're shifting, I actually think that was commendable, that we would hear something, we'd look at it, and then we'd say, but you know, over here, if we do this here, there is this community that may be in a district where they are really going to be without a voice if we leave them stranded out there. And we would go back and we'd, because we'd heard more testimony. In a way, what we were doing was building on the public testimony that everybody, it was an iterative process even for the public. They would see something and they go, we know you heard that, but have you considered this? So I think what to some people from the outside may have looked like we were just changing our minds depending on what people said last was really not that at all. It was really that we were trying to build a collective record of everything that was presented to us.
And yet now in the 2 weeks, if I may say, you can't change it. So if somebody brings something to you.
We have heard we had 34 hearings in the state. We received, what is the number of public written comments? Over 20,000. People have spoken to us through the press. We have received a lot of public comment. And I think that whatever, as Commissioner Baraba said, the next 2 weeks are a period of public comment, because obviously the public can say what they think about these maps, and there's both legal recourse and there's referendum. And so they will get a chance now to speak. But we have exhausted our process it was a very exhaustive process. And I think we have heard loud and clear from all corners of California.
Yes, Commissioner Baraba.
Relative to what was done this time compared to what's been done in the past, I believe, I've not confirmed this, but I think there were 3 public hearings relative to the 2001 redistricting activity. And more interestingly, that the maps were released to the public Friday of the Labor Day weekend and were voted on Tuesday. I think we've probably improved on that significantly.
Additional questions? Sir.
I'm kind of curious. You said and clearly didn't take into consideration the residences of incumbents. So I see by one count today there are about 60 incumbents around the state, members of Congress, members of the legislature, that have been displaced from districts or put in districts with a fellow incumbent. And I guess, how were you able to stay blind to that, given all the reporting and given your own knowledge of your own communities, what cities incumbents were? Was that difficult to keep that part of your own noggin out of consideration when you were drawing these lines? And anybody who wants to comment on it is welcome to.
Definitely. I think if you remember back, those of you who were in our deliberations this morning as we considered the final maps, one of the things that I said was that clearly none of us as individual commissioners came to this process and got everything we wanted for our individual regions. It was really an act of balancing the needs of the entire state, and I believe that we all as individual commissioners took very seriously that we were here representing the state and not here to drive home our own fiefdoms in our own regions, in our own cities. So it was challenging. It was a balance. We wanted to keep the pulse of California, so clearly we felt the need to keep track of what was going on in the media, as we feel like that is also part of the echo chamber of the local communities of reaction to our maps. But we were very careful to look at news from a balanced perspective, to look at it from a variety of sources, from a variety of political perspectives, much as we navigated through our public input hearings. And if there are any other commissioners who would like to say any words on this question, you're more than welcome. Okay. Next question. Have we left you speechless? All right. Then we'd like to thank you for your time. And we hope to see some of you again on August 15th.
Yeah.